One purpose of this video is to show you how I like to eat bacon, but I also wanted to make this video to mention the issue of fats. We need a certain amount of fat in our diet, but the self-appointed medical experts have so many conflicting and confusing opinions about fats that I decided to point out some of the issues that I think need a lot more serious and honest research. For example, olive oil is supposed to be good for us, but there are different processing techniques for producing olive oil, and there are accusations that businesses are taking shortcuts in order to reduce the cost and increase production. Are the different types of olive oil simply different in flavor and nutritional value? Or are some types of olive oil actually harmful to our health? Furthermore, olive oil starts to degrade as soon as it's produced. But what exactly does that mean to us? Does the oil merely lose its flavor or nutritional value as it degrades? Or does it actually transform into dangerous chemicals? Another confusing issue is at what temperature olive oil, bacon fat, and other fats break down into dangerous chemicals or lose their nutritional value. When should we try to keep the temperature low? Anyway, I'll show you one way I like to eat bacon. Most people fry bacon at a high temperature so that it becomes crispy, and then they throw away the liquid fat, which is often burnt. I like crispy bacon also, but if pork, beef, and lamb are reasonably fresh, I think the meat tastes better when it's rare. First, I make some bread sheets about twice as thick as normal. In this case, I made little squares. I cut them in half to expose the very absorbent interior. The American version of English muffins would probably be just as tasty, or maybe better. Then I add strips of raw bacon in whatever design strikes my fancy. I put it into a convection toaster oven at about 320 degrees Fahrenheit or 160 degrees Celsius. I take it out of the oven when the fat starts to melt and turn translucent, which takes only a couple minutes. The bread absorbs the melted fat. None of the bacon or the fat reaches a high temperature. If rare bacon bothers you, leave it in the oven a bit longer. You might assume that the bread becomes soggy with bacon fat, but there's not much fat in a few slices of bacon. You could then add tomatoes, lettuce, and mayonnaise and make a sandwich. This brings me to another issue I wanted to mention. Mayonnaise makes this type of sandwich taste better, and I think it's because the mayonnaise adds fat and vinegar. We like oil and vinegar in salad and other vegetables, and vinegar is a secret ingredient for many sandwiches. And you might even like a few drops with your eggs. When you toast the bacon over the bread like this, you get some fat, so all you need to complete the sandwich is some vinegar. And I wonder, why do we like vinegar? Is it to change the pH balance of the sandwich? Or does the acid titillate our mouth? Anyway, if you sprinkle vinegar on this, it will make the bread soggy, so you might want to add mayonnaise or soak the tomatoes in vinegar. You can also slice the bacon into cubes or short strips. These smaller pieces of bacon are useful when you want to add a gelled egg to the bread or some type of sauce or cheeses. This brings me to another issue. When I was a child, the self-appointed medical experts were advising people to keep their consumption of meat fats to a minimum. And I used to follow their advice, but now I wonder, is the fat on meat really more dangerous than the fat in ice cream, walnuts, coconuts, or corn? Many people put more butter on their bread than there is fat in this bacon. And some people eat enormous amounts of ice cream, sour cream, and oily salad dressings. And consider all the fat that there is in French fries, candies, and croissants. Is butter fat really better for us than pork fat? Is the fat in a couple slices of bacon more dangerous than the fat in a serving of French fries? Incidentally, this technique of cooking bacon also has the advantage that I don't have to clean any greasy frying pans or dispose of any unwanted bacon grease. It's an incredibly quick and easy way of cooking bacon. You can add a gelled egg, which is also extremely easy to make, as you can see in one of my other videos. Here's an egg that is somewhat firm and might be more desirable to you squeamish people. At the end of this video, I'll show you an egg that's even more firm. You can use this cooking technique with other types of meat, except, of course, raw poultry. For example, here's some frozen beef that I'll slice into bite-sized cubes, and then I'll let them defrost. This meat doesn't have much fat, so I'll put some butter on the bread. Then I'll toast the butter a bit, and I'll put the defrosted beef on the bread and put it into the convection toaster oven for just a few minutes. The bread absorbs the juice, but there's not enough juice to make the bread soggy, especially not when you leave the meat rare. This particular meat got overcooked while I was making the video, but here's a piece of bread that I took out of the oven sooner. Half of the bread has beef cubes, and on the other half I'll put slices of prosciutto. I rarely eat prosciutto, but I did this for the video to bring up another issue I wanted to mention. Actually, I don't eat bacon very often either. Certainly you've heard that expression about something that seems too good to be true. I've kept my consumption of bacon, prosciutto, pastrami, salami, beef jerky, and other processed meats to a minimum because they make me wonder, how can a food that tastes as good as some of these and have such a long shelf life possibly be good for us? Prosciutto is made by aging pork between 9 months and 2 years. How can meat have any nutritional value when it's 2 years old? Does this stuff qualify as food? Or is it better described as mummified pork? Can we actually make a meal with this stuff? Or should we consider the processed meats to be flavoring agents for other food? Do these processed meats merely have less nutritional value than fresh meat? Or are they actually dangerous for our health? This brings up the final issue I wanted to mention. A lot of people claim that they feel better when they switch to a vegetarian diet, but I doubt if meat is bad for us. I wonder if one of the reasons people feel better when they become vegetarians is because they were eating too much stale and processed meat. Even the freshest chicken, beef, and other meat in an American market is coming from animals that have been dead for days or weeks, and the processed meats are coming from animals that have been dead for months or years. If the human body was designed for meat that was less than a few hours old, then we need to change the manner in which we sell and process meat. For example, it might be best if the slaughterhouses freeze the meat as soon as the animal is killed and processed, such as with this ground buffalo and this ground beef. Anyway, on the other slice of bread, I'll put some mild olive oil, and this time I'll add a gelled egg that has an even thicker consistency to hopefully encourage you squeamish people to try this method of cooking eggs. Notice that this egg has almost the thickness of a lemon meringue pie. I didn't increase the temperature of the water. All I did was leave it in the water for a longer period of time, about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm not sure exactly because I was distracted as I made the video. Anyway, the end result is a delicious meal.